Hello and thank you for watching my videos. In this job we have this stack that is in between this knee wall. There's only probably 14 inches between the foundation wall and that little knee wall, and the job here is to replace the stack. The stack isn't really that tall, but it's behind a duct. And that eighth bend, which is a 45, that's what we call a eighth bend, and when you get into cast iron sanitary drainage. But right there is where it's cracked on the top of that eighth bend, and you can see the rust. You can't really see the actual crack. The reason that's dripping is because I cut the stack already. I don't know if you can see the line above, just above the eighth bend. That's where I cut it with the soil pipe cutter. I had just barely enough room to get the snapper in there, and that's where it cut. So that's why it's dripping just a little bit, which is normal anytime you cut a drain. And you can see how tight the space is. There's like no working room. And actually, as we get down here, there's even it appears like there's more room, but actually there isn't, because this cast iron stack is so close to this wall I can't get the chain cutter in there. So what I'm going to do is with my hammer drill with the chisel attachment, I'm going to chisel behind the wall and etch just enough room so that I can pass the chain around the stack so that I can get a nice cut on this, and so that we can adapt to it. And there is a dandy clean out down here existing, and because of where it is, they don't want to open this all these 2x4s, and it's for me to actually cut that out. So what we're going to do is cut in another dandy just above it. Actually, what we're going to do is cut a Y in an eighth bend, so that and then come out here with a clean out. And that way there, if we ever have to snake it, we can snake it without having to take that whole thing apart. I mean, technically this whole mess should be replaced, but the owner doesn't want to get into cutting out all these 2x4s, which would be required if we did pull that out. So that's the scenario here. The fit back together should be fairly simple. A major concern when I did cut this was the wires, so I had to unstaple the wires so that I can get the chain cutter around the pipe without actually crushing the wires, and that was the key part here. So providing that the rest of this cut goes smoothly, if I can snap it with the soil pipe cutter, we should be fine. If I have to do it with the Sawzall, it's going to take a lot longer. So hopefully I'll get a nice, this stack is in good condition. And the way you can tell if it's in good condition or not is just by pressing it. If you don't feel any sponginess at all anywhere around the pipe, it's usually good. But if you feel like you can put your finger through the pipe with, you know, some heavy pressure, then you would need to go further down the pipe to cut into it. Or a lot of times what we do is we wouldn't even consider using the chain cutter. We would just cut it with the soil pipe cutter, because what'll happen is the chain cutter will just crush the pipe instead of snapping it. So I couldn't get my hammer drill in here, so what I did was I just cut where I could actually get the cutter in. There's these little bends inside the foundation where the chain cutter would actually fit, and other areas where it just would not fit. Most of the areas it won't fit, so there was just one tiny spot where it would fit, and that's where I cut it. And you can see the old cut still dripping. I actually shut the water off because that dripping is just becoming a nuisance. So it might be a toilet running, a flapper, but it's just becoming a nuisance. This is our soil pipe cutter. This is what we use to cut soil pipe with. This and a ratchet. So basically we put this chain around the cast iron pipe, find a link that'll fit, and tighten this up. And when we do, the cast iron pipe just pops. Usually. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it crushes it on the old stuff, and then you have a problem. So this here is the actual culprit of what was cracked. and this hub is cracked. It's been cracked for years and causing all this damage. You can see it's just leaking down, leaking down. So what you're looking at is a hub of an 1/8 bend. See it, 1/8, and this is actually a small section of pipe. So this pipe will come down into this hub, and you can even see there's some oakum. So the oakum will get packed after the pipe was inserted. It would get packed with oakum, and then molten lead would then be poured over the oakum. Then when that cools, it would get worked in with a caulking iron, and that's pretty much what's happening here. But the new material will be no hub, and we're going to be using 4-band clamps. There's nothing wrong with 2-band clamps. It's just that this is a sort of a high-end application, and I feel that the customer should be using 4-band clamps. So here we are. I wanted to remove that old dandy clean out. One of the main reasons is because that plug that's in there is actually a fit-all plug. It's not really a true threaded plug, even though it might look like it. It's actually just a lead plug that you kind of hammer in place when you're in a jam. So what I've done is, with a special blade, it's called the Torch. It's made by Milwaukee, I believe. And I sometimes use 810 blades. I think that is an 810 blade. But I've been cutting this. Probably took me a half hour to cut this far. It's not fully cut yet. It's just very slow and painstaking, and there's actually no working room. So I'm cutting it by hand because one, the part that actually broke, that necessitated this whole repair, was a fitting. So I'm a little apprehensive of another fitting being able to handle the cut. Even though the pipe's in good condition, the fittings may not be. So I'm cutting this by hand, plus I can't get the cutter in there anyway, so I have no choice but to cut it by hand. So then we'll refit it up, and I feel much better about this, cutting this dandy out and replacing it with another fitting than just leaving it. So I wanted to make a little clip about how we tighten the no-hub clamps. So these are 4-band clamps, and they need 80 inch-pounds for torque. You know, I have this special drill. It looks like an ordinary cordless drill, but it's not. It's not an impact gun either. It's a special cordless drill designed specifically for no-hub clamps, and you can see it has three settings: 60 inch-pounds and 80 inch-pounds, as well as drill only. So what this will do is it'll torque out. Right now it's set at 80. And the way you tighten the no-hub clamps are, you do the two middle ones first, then you do the two outer ones. You get them snug first, then you go back and do the middle, and that little noise is the torque out. Then we go back to after the two middle ones again, we go back to the outer ones. Back to the middle ones, and then back to the outer. And you can also hit all four all at once after that. And that's pretty much how we tighten these with a torque wrench. Now you can use the hand torque wrench, which will just make your wrist sore, but this is a better way with this drill. So this is the finished stack replacement. We replace that old dandy clean out with an extended Y with a end clean out, and that can be accessed from this room. Dandy clean out is a little better because you can actually snake up, but most of the time the problems aren't up, they're actually down. And if they had to snake something above this point, you would take off the toilet and snake from the toilet, because you never want to snake up. Even though you can, what happens is all the water comes down at you at once. So you always want to try and snake above. So this cleanout will work out ideally. And So that new pipe just comes up, and there's our offset, and we connect back to the old pipe. But there's, as you can see, this is a 4-inch pipe, and there's only, 1.5 inches on each side. So that tells you, the kind of tight quarters that we're into here, even though it may not look it on the camera, but it's actually really tight quarters. So that's it for this repair. On to the next one.